The cultivation master, Yaimori Bakuto, was the hero who saved the continent from darkness. He stands alone amidst the flames of victory. His plan, he believes, has succeeded perfectly, but his allies have a different agenda in mind. And in a flash of darkness, the hero is struck down from behind, ambushed by shadowy figures he once called comrades. His eyes burn with the sting of betrayal. As he falls, he asks a single haunting question: why? With his final breath, he screams a vow of vengeance, promising to drag every traitor down to hell. But instead of oblivion, a voice calls his name. He awakens to a concerned woman and unfamiliar faces. Yaimori finds himself in a courtyard surrounded by strangers. He can only wonder if this is what hell looks like. But the afterlife comes with high school bullies, apparently. Another student mocks him for being a disowned heir. The crowd's attention shifts to a more promising figure, a confident young man named Kitaba, ready for a test. As the test is announced, a lifetime of memories floods into his mind. He realizes he's been reborn into the body of another Yaimori Bakuto. The body's original owner was an outcast from a powerful family, disowned and left to die after his parents' death. A world completely ignorant of the art of cultivation, but still filled with a familiar spiritual energy. The Reiki here is faint, almost non-existent, but he knows the secret to gathering every last drop. He channels the energy into his core, a familiar power returning. With a glint in his eye, the awakening begins. The blockages in his new body have been cleared. The surge of power has even changed his physical form. Once he regains his former power, he will return to his world and exact his revenge. But for now, he's back at the very beginning. He decides to use the upcoming test to gauge his new potential. He approaches the instructors, who question if he's all right. Yaimori calmly announces he's joining the 100-meter sprint. His old tormentors scoff at the idea, reminding him he's nothing compared to the school's star athlete. He knows he's only at the first stage of cultivation, but even that makes his body far superior to a normal human's. The bullies gloat that he's stuck racing against Hayashi. Unfazed, Yaimori takes his place at the starting line. He and his rival get into position, ready for the signal. Hayashi glares ahead with fierce, competitive eyes. The starter pistol fires, and the race begins. In an instant, Hayashi explodes from the starting block, but Yaimori remains still, a smirk playing on his lips. His old tormentors laugh, assuming he's too scared to even move. He gives them a 3-second head start. Then, in a blur of motion, he's off. The bullies can only stare, their mockery forgotten. A woman on the sidelines looks on in utter shock. He moves with a speed that defies human limits. This is the power of a true cultivator. And just like that, the race is already won. The crowd is left completely speechless. The gap between them is as vast as heaven and earth. Yaimori crosses the finish line, asking about the 6-second handicap. The instructor announces his time, a new school record. His rival collapses, his spirit completely broken. Yaimori knows he's far from his former glory, but this is only the beginning of his ascent. He vows to stand at the summit once more. We're reminded of who he once was, Yaimori Bakuto, who surpassed countless masters in just 50 years. By 65, he was the continent's most powerful cultivator. He repelled the Demon King's army, saving the world. But his only reward was betrayal from his comrades. He remembers the wolves he once faced, a world of constant battle. But now his problems are far more mundane. To regain his power, he'll need special elixirs. There's just one small problem with that plan. The ingredients cost a fortune, and this body is broke. He figures he can sell talismans to make some cash, except his bank account is laughably empty. It seems even grand revenge requires a startup fund. But his financial planning is about to be interrupted. His old tormentors have come looking for him. The leader of the group steps forward, demanding an early protection fee. Yaimori recalls this body's memories of constant extortion. They had beaten and robbed the original owner just last week. Noticing his new confidence, the leader orders his lackey to handle him. The bully throws a punch, expecting an easy win. But Yaimori sidesteps the attack with contemptuous ease, and returns the favor with a single devastating blow. To a cultivator, even a boxing captain is just an ordinary human. The others can only watch in disbelief as he moves, before another one is sent flying with a swift kick. The remaining bullies stare in disbelief, questioning if this is the same person. Yaimori taunts them, asking if they're afraid. Fueled by rage and fear, they charge forward together. But he catches both of their punches with impossible ease. He stops their combined assault without even breaking a sweat. With a simple twist, he brings them to their knees in agony. He savors their fear, reminding them how it feels to be helpless. Their bravado shatters, replaced by desperate pleas for mercy. But mercy isn't on the menu today as he casually tosses them aside. The leader can only tremble on the floor, begging for forgiveness. But it seems the commotion has attracted a new challenger. The blonde student clenches his fist in anger and lunges forward with a furious shout. But Yaemori meets the attack head-on, sending the guy flying into the lockers. Guess he really should have stayed out of it. Yaemori looms over them with a simple warning. The remaining bullies can only see him as a monster. They cower in the corner, begging him to stay back. But Yaemori has one simple demand: give back what they stole. The bullies are utterly confused by his demand. With a chilling gaze, he reminds them of their debt. The leader's bravado instantly crumbles into fear. He scrambles to return every last bit of the stolen cash. As he walks away, he knows his secret is safe with them. This school is just a temporary stop on his path. Turns out, shaking down your bullies is a great funding strategy. With this, he can finally begin crafting the tools for his revenge. Talismans, the foundational tools for any budding cultivator. Crafted from a mix of rare minerals and spiritual herbs, he infuses the materials with spiritual energy, a process he knows like the back of his hand. In a flash, a set of powerful talismans is complete. He gathers the fruits of his labor, confident they'll sell for a handsome price. Now all he needs is a place to train and more supplies. But 3 weeks later, his business plan has hit a snag. Apparently, modern society isn't big on magical street vendors, but his work has caught the eye of a surprised onlooker. Just then, a faint whimper breaks his concentration. The sound comes from a small injured puppy. It collapses on the sidewalk, looking badly hurt. Yaemori kneels down to inspect the poor creature. He decides this is the perfect chance to test his new charms. He places a healing talisman on the dog's back, and a wave of restorative energy flows through its body. In an instant, the puppy is completely healed and full of life. Yaemori watches as his first successful test subject sits before him, but the dog suddenly turns, growling at an approaching voice. The voice belongs to a man who callously dismisses the animal's life, much to his companion's fury. The woman insists they need to get the dog to a hospital, but her argument is cut short by a sudden realization. She sees Yaemori holding the puppy, which is now perfectly fine. She rushes over, demanding to know how he healed it so quickly. She remembers the creature was on the brink of death just moments ago. Yaemori, ever the opportunist, asks if she's heading to the hospital. He realizes this could be the big break his business needs. He pulls out one of his talismans, claiming it's what he used. She recognizes it as a simple protective charm, looking skeptical. Her companion immediately calls him a liar, refusing to believe it. The man accuses him of orchestrating the entire incident, but the woman ignores him, asking if anyone can use the charms. She wonders if they could even help someone in a vegetative state. Yaemori explains that for brain damage, a special talisman is needed, and wouldn't you know it, he just happens to have one on hand. Her companion is furious, warning her not to trust this shady vendor. Yaemori simply hands her the talisman, explaining how to use it. Then he drops the price tag, and it's a hefty one. But the woman, Shizuru, offers 1,000,000 yen for his entire stock. Her friend snaps, ordering Yaemori to get away from her. But the man's hand is caught mid-air. Yaemori stops him cold, warning him not to interfere with their deal. His eyes glow with a power the man can't comprehend. With a casual shove, he sends the guy flying. The deal is done, and the payment is exchanged. He even throws in a few extra talismans for protection and offense, offering a chilling hope that she'll never need them. Shizuru can only watch him with a mix of awe and gratitude. As he turns to leave, she calls out for his name. He walks away, leaving only his name and a new puppy companion. Her companion insists she's been scammed by a con artist, but Shizuru clutches the talisman, her mind made up. She's willing to risk it all for the slightest hope of saving her mother. Meanwhile, Yaemori is already planning his next steps. With his new funds, he can finally buy the herbs he needs to train. His new companion seems eager to follow him on his journey. But as night falls, he senses a powerful spiritual energy nearby. It's coming from a large, unassuming mansion. He spots the source, a rare and potent spiritual herb. Inside, someone is tending to a fresh wound. Back at the hospital, Shizuru's companion nurses his bruised hand and ego. He swears that next time, things will be different. But his complaints are cut short by a stern-looking older man. He's furious that Shizuru has brought shame upon their family, accusing her of falling for a simple con artist's trick. Even the hospital staff mock her gullibility behind her back. But Shizuru tunes them all out, her mind set on one thing. She clutches the talisman, her last desperate hope. Her guardian's patience finally snaps. He demands to know if she truly believes in such nonsense. But Shizuru fires back, questioning what he's ever done to help. She accuses him of neglecting her mother, claiming his delay is to blame. Her words strike a nerve, leaving the older man stunned. She believes he's just waiting for her mother to die so he can move on. His patience finally shatters, and he raises a hand to strike her. But he stops himself, his face a mask of contained fury. He lowers his hand with a frustrated sigh. He can only remark on her newfound defiance. With his back turned, he decides to end it all by calling a nurse. Shizuru panics, begging him not to as she clutches the talisman. But Shizuru refuses to give up on her mother. She activates the talisman, unleashing a brilliant flash of light. A familiar voice calls her name, and she looks up in disbelief. Her guardian turns around, completely stunned by the sound. The woman in the bed has opened her eyes, her gaze weak but clear. Guess the shady street vendor wasn't a scammer after all. The man's earlier anger is replaced by pure, unadulterated joy. The hospital staff can hardly believe what they're hearing. They rush to the room, ready for an immediate examination. The doctor confirms the miracle. With rehab, she'll make a full recovery. Shizuru holds up the glowing talisman, giving it all the credit. She explains that this simple charm is what healed her mother. The medical staff and her guardian can only stare in utter disbelief. The doctor calls it a miracle, demanding they contact the medical academy. Her companion has a sudden, terrifying realization about Yaemori's true nature. Shizuru and her mother share a tearful, long-awaited embrace. She vows to repay the man who made this miracle possible. Meanwhile, Yaemori has used his new funds to find a place to live. He declares this the first step on his path back to his own world. And as for those who betrayed him, he will never forgive them. To return to his world, he must reach the 11th stage of cultivation. He promises his traitors that their day of reckoning is coming. But as he settles in, he realizes a critical problem. The spiritual energy of this world is fading fast. To continue his training, he needs a concentrated source of power, like a legendary spiritual spring or a rare material. And by some miracle, a rare silver heart grass is growing right in his room. This spiritual material is a key ingredient for refinement elixirs. With it, he can craft pills to reach the 2nd stage of cultivation. Realizing time is of the essence, he decides to start immediately. But his cultivation is once again stalled by a lack of funds. The ingredients for his next elixir are far too expensive, and his discreet little stall has attracted the wrong kind of attention. He's been aware of their eyes on him for a while now. A group of thugs has been tailing him for 3 days straight. Today, he decides it's time to see what they want, but his confrontation is interrupted by a familiar voice. A classmate questions why he's been absent from school. She assumes he's fallen on hard times since being disowned. He recognizes her as the one girl who ever showed the original Yaemori kindness. She even offers to lend him money so he can return to school. But Yaemori politely declines, saying he has other business to attend to. The girl can't shake the feeling that something is seriously wrong. Yaemori, meanwhile, has led his followers into a secluded alley. He can sense all 10 of them, perfectly positioned for his trap. With a glint in his eye, he decides to finish this quickly. He makes a break for it, drawing the thugs out from the shadows. They take the bait, shouting as they give chase. He leads them deeper into the narrow, winding alleyway. Then, at a dead end, he turns to face them, ready for a fight. The thugs declare that he's not getting away this time. But Yaemori simply invites them to come at him all at once. The entire group surrounds him, ready for a fight. Their leader seems impressed by his lack of fear. Yaemori cuts to the chase, demanding to know who sent them. The man reveals he's made an enemy of a powerful family. He mocks Yaemori for his connection to the Amatani heiress. The name triggers a memory from the body's original owner, who was once engaged to her before being disowned. Yaemori decides he'll just have to beat the answers out of them. But his kind classmate has followed him, horrified by what she sees. She knows his frail body is no match for armed thugs. With no other choice, she quickly dials the police for help. But her call for backup is unfortunately noticed. A hulking figure grabs her from behind, his eyes glowing with menace. She struggles against his grip as more thugs emerge from the shadows. It seems their boss has decided to make a personal appearance. He takes her hostage, adding a new layer to this confrontation. Yaemori recognizes her, wondering why she put herself in danger. The boss taunts him, using the terrified girl as leverage. She screams for Yaemori to run, warning him they're armed. She tries to leverage her family's powerful name to save herself, but the thugs are completely unfazed by her threat. The leader sneers, confident that witnesses can be silenced. He pulls a blade, ready to make good on his threat, blaming her for her own foolish intervention. But before he can strike, Yaemori moves with blinding speed. He intercepts the attack with a single, perfectly timed block. His eyes glow with power as he admits he wanted to be discreet. But it seems that plan is officially out the window. He declares that surrendering was never an option, as he sends the thug crashing into a wall. His classmate can only stare, unable to believe her eyes. The remaining thugs are frozen in absolute terror. Yaemori repeats his question with a chilling finality. Who sent them? Elsewhere, a radio call reports that a gang is on the move. A man in a car listens intently, his face filled with alarm. The report confirms the gang is targeting a boy with a female hostage. He speeds off, calling for backup but keeping a certain chief out of the loop. He warns his unit that these aren't just thugs, but killers. The officer in the car frantically calls for a response, but the voice on the other end has a surprising update. He explains that the situation has changed drastically because Yamori has already handled all of them single-handedly. He holds the defeated leader, demanding answers. The man can't believe this is the same weak kid he was hired to target. Yamori presses him, asking who sent him, the Amatani or the Yamori family. He gives the man 3 seconds to talk, or else. The thug panics, trying to stammer out an answer. But their interrogation is interrupted by an arriving officer. The officer warns him to stop before he becomes just like them. Yamori glances back, noting the police's coincidental arrival. He considers forcing his way through them, but decides he's already made his point quite clearly. With a final shove, he lets the thug leader go. The man gasps for air, relieved to have survived the encounter. Yamori knows fighting the authorities is a battle he can't win yet. The lead officer is just glad they made it, amazed by what he sees. He can't believe one high schooler took down so many criminals alone. He introduces himself as Kaio Haruki from the Nemi City Police. His classmate introduces herself with a friendly wave. The officers explain they've already heard the full story. Yamori realizes government surveillance has seen everything. They assure him the questioning will be brief and to the point, but their conversation is cut short by an approaching figure. A new man arrives, criticizing them for their leniency. It's the police chief, Onaga Raizo, and he's here to arrest Yamori. He shoves an arrest warrant in Yamori's face with a smug grin. His classmate immediately protests, shouting that they were the victims. But the chief's cold gaze shows he has no interest in the truth. The chief twists the story, claiming Yamori was the aggressor. Officer Kaio grabs him by the collar, demanding to know why he's lying. But the chief's eyes glow with an unsettling purple light as he denies it. He reminds the officer of his rank, threatening his entire career. Kaio can only stare in disbelief at the blatant corruption. His partner has to hold him back before he does something rash. Yamori watches the whole pathetic display unfold, completely unfazed. He realizes someone powerful is pulling the strings to frame him. The chief mocks his calm demeanor, finding it amusing. But Yamori sees this as a chance to get to the bottom of it all. Yamori calmly points out the chief's little slip-up. The man realizes his mistake as Yamori calls him a mere puppet. He dares the chief to finish the job on his master's behalf. Flustered, the corrupt officer denies everything and barks an order. Yamori is led away in cuffs, his classmate watching helplessly. But he has a small souvenir from their little chat. The chief is stunned, realizing he's been had. Yamori leaves him with a chilling promise for their next meeting. The man can only seethe, vowing to remember this humiliation. And so our hero is escorted into the depths of the station. Inside a prison cell, a formidable figure sits in silent meditation. A guard bangs a baton against the bars, a signal for what's to come. A man in a suit confirms the client's request is simple. The target is to be eliminated without question. Yamori is escorted in, taking in his new surroundings. A cell door buzzes open, ready to receive its new occupant. He's led into the darkness, where 2 shadowy figures await him. He calmly asks if they're planning to jump him. His eyes gleam, finding the whole setup rather interesting. He looks past the grunts, identifying the true mastermind in the room. The man explains his personal code of never harming ordinary people. But as far as he's concerned, people like Yamori are simply too weak to count. He introduces himself as Funaki Zensei, the man hired to eliminate him. Yamori scoffs, dismissing him as just another puppet. But he can feel a strange energy radiating from his opponent. He recognizes the familiar aura of spiritual power. Yamori prepares himself as the hitman powers up. The man lunges forward, promising to send him to the next world. He soars through the air, ready to deliver a devastating blow. The hitman's confidence shatters into pure disbelief, because Yamori has stopped his attack with a single hand. He clarifies that the weak one here is Funaki himself, as he lands a crushing blow. But the hitman catches his arm, halting the attack. With a manic grin, Funaki prepares to retaliate. He hurls Yamori across the cell with immense force. But our boy lands gracefully, completely unharmed. Funaki admits he was underestimated, vowing to make him regret it. Yamori stands ready, his own power flaring in response. A wave of purple energy erupts from the ground. Yamori channels it into a single devastating punch. The hitman is sent flying across the cell, crashing into the wall with bone-shattering force. Funaki spits blood, completely shocked by this level of power. Yamori stands over him, the victor of their first exchange. But with a roar of fury, the hitman launches his own counterattack. Yamori dodges the blow, which shatters the air around him. He lands gracefully, watching the dust settle. Funaki can only glare, his pride wounded but his will unbroken. Funaki roars in fury, refusing to accept his disadvantage. But Yamori meets his rage with a cold, calculating stare. He ducks under the attack and delivers a brutal counter of his own. The hitman can only reel from the devastating impact. He's sent tumbling across the cell floor once again. Funaki struggles to his feet, questioning his entire career choice. But Yaimori's aura flares to life, a stark warning. He unleashes another punch, faster than the last. The blow lands with enough force to shatter the concrete beneath them. Yamori grabs his defeated opponent, demanding to know who sent him. And then, with a final surge of power, he ends the fight in a flash of purple light. Elsewhere, a high-ranking official gets a frantic call. He can't believe the reports about the Yaimori family's failure. He assures his contact that the problem will be handled. The voice on the other end promises him a hefty promotion. Chief Hashimoto hangs on every word, his ambition burning. Back in the cell, Yamori calmly interrogates the aftermath. Funaki admits that Yamori is beyond what ordinary people can handle. Yamori's interest is piqued, asking if there are others like them. Funaki begins to tell a story about an old monk he once met, a man who could split a giant tree with a single hand. The sight left him completely stunned. That monk then gave him a bottle of so-called divine water. He drank a diluted version of it over many years, slowly transforming his body into something beyond human. Yamori connects the dots. The water was spiritual essence. He explains that such springs only form where energy is densest, which leads to a simple question. Why take orders from ordinary men? The answer, as it often is, comes down to money for his sick child. But the divine water had no effect on his son's illness. He's desperate for money to find a real cure. But Yamori calmly states that he might be able to help. The hitman can only stare in disbelief. Yamori explains that concentrated spiritual essence is dangerous for ordinary people. But there are ways to safely enhance its healing properties. Funaki scoffs at the idea of a simple talisman. Until Yamori unleashes a wave of restorative energy, the hitman watches, stunned, as his wounds instantly heal. Yamori offers him a choice. Reveal who hired him, and he'll save his child. And then, with a chilling gaze, he makes his final offer. The hitman lets out a small, defeated laugh. He admits he knew Yamori was no ordinary man, and so he gives up the name, Akimasa Hashimoto. Elsewhere, the man himself is on the phone, lounging in his lavish headquarters like a king. He offers his guest a choice of food or drink. But his guest is a woman held captive, clearly in distress. He scolds her for her lack of manners with a condescending tone. And with a smug grin, he decides to continue his little game. He silences her with a cruel, condescending smile, and threatens to teach her a lesson in manners with a pair of pliers. Her muffled cries echo through the lavish room, a brutal display of his complete lack of humanity. But his fun is interrupted by a subordinate with a message about Yaimori. Hashimoto casually dismisses the news, confident his thugs have it handled. But a flicker of doubt crosses his mind, realizing this path could lead to his own end. Back in the cell, Funaki offers a token of his own in exchange for the talisman. He hands over a simple silver cross necklace. But Yaimori instantly recognizes it as a container of concentrated spiritual essence. He explains that this essence will make the Silverheart grass bear fruit. Yaimori pockets the key to his next stage of cultivation. Funaki warns him that Hashimoto will now be hunting him down, a man whose targets never meet a peaceful end. But Yamori simply tells him not to worry about it, and leaves him with a chilling promise for their shared enemy. Meanwhile, at Nemi University, a new player arrives on the scene. A sleek yellow sports car pulls up to the curb, and a confident, well-dressed woman steps out. She's just learned that the talisman vendor is the outcast of the Yaimori family. She decides to ask the university president for his class schedule. But elsewhere, the dean of the university is panicking, refusing to help Yaimori because of his supposed criminal ties. Just then, the office door swings open, and Shizuru steps inside, much to their surprise. She overhears his name, asking if they're talking about Yamori. Meanwhile, at the police station, Officer Keo slams his hand down in fury. He confronts Chief Onaga for letting the Scar Gang go free. He accuses his superior of a blatant abuse of power, but the chief just smirks, demanding proof for his accusations. He slams his hands on the desk, accusing the chief of orchestrating the whole thing, but Onaga simply dares him to prove it, his eyes filled with contempt. Just then, their confrontation is interrupted by a commotion at the door. Yamori's classmate storms in with Shizuru, demanding his immediate release. The chief glares, furious that his officers let outsiders into his office. He scoffs, certain that the disowned boy has no powerful connections. He calmly explains that Yaemori is a suspect and cannot be let go. Ko explodes, shouting that the charges are completely baseless. But the chief stonewalls him, hiding behind the excuse of internal information. His classmate fires back, calling out the blatant corruption of freeing the real criminals. The chief threatens to arrest them all for obstruction of justice. But Shizuru calmly places her phone on the table and dares him to even try it. Enraged, Onaga orders his men to lock them all in a holding cell. Officers flood the room surrounding the small group of dissenters. He declares them all accomplices and suspends Kaio on the spot. Kaio can only shout back at the blatant abuse of authority. But Shizuru calmly reminds him that his own superior won't be pleased. Onaga just laughs, twisting her words into another fabricated crime. She fires back, hinting that she knows all about his dirty little secrets. The chief grumbles, annoyed by this sudden complication. But Shizuru calmly asks if money can solve this problem too. He scoffs, explaining that the powerful always win. Then he casually threatens to make them all disappear. Officer Ko can only see that the blatant corruption. While his classmate panics, Shizuru's resolve only hardens. She speaks into her phone with a confident smile. A voice on the other end confirms he heard everything. Onaga's face drains of color as he recognizes the name. The voice announces Onaga's suspension and that he's on his way. The chief stammers, his authority crumbling in an instant. Shizuru calmly introduces herself as the daughter of the Shuga family. And just like that, Onaga realizes he's picked a fight he cannot win. Meanwhile, Yaemori has been released from his cell. He examines the cross, a gift from his former opponent. He knows its spiritual essence is a one-time use key to his next level, but his thoughts are interrupted as he senses someone approaching. The sound of confident footsteps echoes down the empty hall, and his cell door swings open once more. He looks up to see who's come to visit him now. It's Shizuru, and she's brought his classmate with her. Elsewhere, Akimasa Hashimoto is having a very purple tantrum. He fumes over the incompetence of his hired help. Failure to the Ima family will have dire consequences. His subordinate asks for his next command. He orders them to send their best man to handle it, vowing to take care of this problem personally. Back at his new place, Yaemori reflects on his empty wallet, but he has all the ingredients he needs for the next step. It's time to begin the refinement process. He consumes the Refine Gathering Chi pill. Thanks to the high-grade essence, the results are incredible. And just like that, he's reached the second stage of cultivation. He tests an old technique, the Cloud Shadow Step, much to his dog's surprise. At this speed, he's confident that not even bullets can touch him. But with the spiritual essence gone, he needs a new source of power. A spiritual spring sounds great, but his bank account says otherwise. He can't even afford the entry fees for his next destination. But a commercial on TV gives him a sudden spark of inspiration. A popular beauty product is selling out at a surprisingly low price. He realizes he can create his own version of the product, and an upcoming party is the perfect place to launch it. We flash back 5 hours to his meeting with Shizuru. He finally understands the true extent of her family's power. She explains that she's called him here to ask for a favor. Yaemori listens intently, wondering what she could possibly want. She asks if he's familiar with the famous Sugao building, then casually reveals that she owns it and is hosting a party there. She wants him to be her guest of honor. The stage is set for his grand debut into high society. At the Sugao building's rooftop party, Yaemori has a plan. He can't make spiritual elixirs yet, but beauty pills are doable. A simple but effective product from his old world. He calculates that selling just a few could solve his money problems. This party is the perfect opportunity to make his sales pitch. But elsewhere, Shizuru is getting an earful from her aunt and uncle. They warn her not to end up like the hopeless Masami. Her uncle sneers that this is the price for youthful selfishness. Masami can only stand there, unable to defend herself from the verbal assault. But Shizuru furiously comes to her defense, reminding them of her sacrifices. The uncle suggests it's time to marry Shizuru off for the family's sake. Her mother's health is still fragile as Shizuru tends to her. He even calls Masami defective for being unmarried. But a family friend insists Shizuru has her own plans. The uncle scoffs at the very idea of her having a choice. He dismisses her autonomy as simple selfishness. Then he mocks the entire cosmetics industry with a sneer. The entire family can only watch his disgusting display. But a new voice cuts in, calling out his disrespect. Yaemori's eyes glow, declaring the man's words beyond rude. The uncle sputters, demanding to know who this stranger is. He frantically calls for the guards to throw him out. But Shizuru steps in, introducing Yaemori as the man who saved her mother's life. Her mother offers her heartfelt thanks for the talisman that saved her, but Yaimori humbly insists that no thanks are necessary. The uncle scoffs, crediting medicine, not some superstitious charm. Yaimori introduces himself as a researcher and a business partner. Shizuru looks on, surprised by this sudden promotion. The uncle dismisses him, recalling their debate on cosmetics, and Yaimori offers to show them the answer firsthand. The aunt, Masami, watches with newfound interest. He turns to the woman who was just being berated, asking for a volunteer, and offers her a small box with a confident smile. She can only stare, completely taken aback by his request. Inside is a single glowing, beauty-preserving pill. The uncle immediately accuses him of trying to poison her. The woman hesitates, understandably worried about the mystery pill, but Shizuru steps in, offering to take it herself. Her mother agrees, placing her full faith in him, but the rest of the crowd just scoffs at the impossible claim. But Yaimori leans in, appealing to her younger self. A flood of painful memories and cruel insults flashes through her mind. With newfound resolve, she reaches for the glowing pill, and without a second thought, she swallows it whole. The uncle and aunt can only watch in stunned silence. For a moment, nothing happens, and the crowd begins to murmur. The uncle gloats, declaring Yaimori a fraud and his product a failure. But then, a brilliant golden light begins to shine from her. In a flash, her entire appearance is miraculously transformed. She stares at her reflection, seeing the face of her youth once more. The uncle and his wife can only stare, their arrogance shattered. The crowd's skepticism instantly turns into desperate greed. A bidding war erupts as the wealthy guests clamor for a taste of youth. But the uncle sees past the product, his mind already on a bigger prize. He realizes the true value lies in controlling the supply. He silences his wife's concerns, his ambition overriding all caution. His twisted plan involves marrying off his own niece for financial gain. A new player from the Kozan group makes a bold offer for exclusive rights. But the Hayashi group immediately counters with a staggering 20 million. A voice of reason tries to calm the frenzy, reminding them of their manners. A new bidder steps forward, inviting Yaimori to a private discussion. He offers 30 million plus a 70% cut of the profits. Yaimori clarifies the terms, surprised by the generous split. But the man clarifies. 70% for them, 30% for him. But a new voice cuts in, questioning what network they even have left. The uncle snaps at Shizuru, reminding her that they're family. But she fires back, asking if he thought about family when he lost 160 million. The man can only stammer, his face pale with shock and fear. She offers to read the bank's demand letters for the whole room to hear. Her mother and aunt can only stare, horrified by the revelation. The uncle's face drains of color as he demands to know how she found out. Shizuru reveals his true motive, to squeeze more money out of her mother. She declares with absolute finality that he won't get another cent. With his scheme exposed, the man collapses to the floor in shame. He desperately denies everything, his voice cracking with fear. He turns to his sister, who can only express her disappointment in him. He clings to her dress, begging for the protection she's always given him. But she reminds him that stealing their mother's inheritance is unforgivable. With a swift kick, she tells him to fix this mess himself. He can only stare in disbelief as his own family abandons him. Shizuru offers her uncle a choice, face ruin, or sell her as company for a single yen. The other guests can only smirk at his well-deserved downfall. With the family drama handled, she turns back to Yaimori. She offers to introduce him to some of the business experts present, but Yaimori warns her to choose her partners wisely in this den of sharks. Shizuru agrees, placing her full trust in his judgment. Later that night, she gives him a ride to his new place. He admits that his lavish new home is just a rental. As the night ends, he thanks her for the ride. She offers him her friendship, a concept he finds unfamiliar. But Shizuru insists with a brilliant, disarming smile. Yaimori turns to leave, his mind processing the new alliance. For a moment, he thinks this new life isn't so bad after all. He arrives back at his apartment, ready for a quiet night. He reaches for the handle, completely unaware of what's waiting inside. The door creaks open, revealing a sliver of the room. But the light falls on a dark pool spreading across the floor. And in the center lies his small companion, a brutal message left just for him. In an instant, his calm shatters into pure, unadulterated rage. A spy reports Yaimori's return to his master, Hashimoto. Their plan is simple. Make him taste true despair. A cruel message left in a pool of red. A twisted gift designed to shatter his spirit. He lunges forward, his rage boiling over. He reaches for his fallen companion, his hand trembling, but he sees a flicker of life and knows there's still a chance. As he focuses his energy, an assassin waits in the shadows above. The killer lunges, aiming for a fatal blow, and brings the blade down with blinding speed. but the blade never finds its mark. The assassin's eyes widen in pure disbelief. Yamori has caught the attack with his bare hand, his companion safe. The other thugs can only stare, completely stunned by the sight. He gently places the puppy down, telling it to find cover. With the first attacker dealt with, he realizes he has more company. His aura flares to life as he invites them to try their luck. Their leader orders them to attack, but to keep him alive. A thug rushes forward, swinging his blade in a wide arc. But Yamori meets the attack with a cold, unwavering gaze. He smashes the first attacker into the ground with a single brutal motion. The others can only stare, their confidence shattered. Yamori rises, his aura flaring as he marks his first victim. Enraged, another thug rushes forward with a pipe, but Yamori dodges the clumsy swing without even looking. He stops the man's arm with a single precise strike, then grabs him by the throat, silencing his panicked cry. He lifts the assassin off his feet with impossible strength, and calmly announces that's the second one down. The leader changes tactics, ordering his men to use their guns. He declares he'll take on every last one of them, until one of them finally starts talking. Elsewhere, Hashimoto prepares his own set of sinister tools. He gloats over his new captive, who is far from a random girl. In fact, she's a woman admired by the entire city. It's Shizuru, now a helpless hostage in his twisted game. But his fun is interrupted by an incoming call. He answers, asking his men for a status report on their target. But the voice on the other end is one he never expected to hear. Yamori calmly compliments the man on his audacity. Hashimoto reveals his trump card, Shizuru, the perfect bait. Yamori's eyes burn with a cold, murderous fury. He demands they leave the innocent woman out of this. But Hashimoto only laughs at his pathetic plea. He gives Yamori a 40-minute ultimatum with a horrifying promise. Then he hangs up, daring our boy to find them in time. The line goes dead, leaving Yamori in a silent rage. He crushes the phone in his hand, vowing to hunt Hashimoto down. The villain, meanwhile, prepares to film his twisted message. Shizuru can only struggle, a helpless pawn in his cruel game. But his cruel game is suddenly interrupted. His men burst in with an urgent report. The fire suppression system in the warehouse has been activated. Furious, he orders them to guard the room while he investigates. But in the hallway, a guard is met by an unseen presence. Before being sent flying back through the door, he was meant to protect. He lands in a heap, leaving the room in stunned silence. Shizuru looks up, realizing that Yamori has arrived. We flash back an hour to a man on a motorcycle with a delivery. He checks the address, confirming he's in the right place. The hitman Funaki gets a report that Yamori is home. A subordinate assures Hashimoto that 6 assassins are on the way, and that they've also captured Shizuru as an extra precaution. Funaki is furious, questioning Hashimoto's reckless escalation, as the car carrying Shizuru speeds off into the night. But it seems Funaki has a plan, vowing to track them down. He gives chase, a lone rider against a powerful organization. The car arrives at a secluded mansion, its destination reached. Funaki calls Yamori, confirming that Hashimoto has taken Shizuru. But Yamori already knows the address, much to Funaki's surprise. Funaki asks how he knew, and the answer lies at Yamori's feet. The hitman asks for help rescuing Shizuru, while Yamori promises to personally drag Hashimoto to hell. Inside the mansion, 2 guards stand watch in the opulent hall. Hashimoto is furious about the warehouse alarm going off. Funaki watches from the shadows as the villain leaves to investigate. The remaining guards complain about their job, but their grumbling is cut short by an unexpected sound. Funaki steps out of the darkness, his aura flaring to life. He gives them a simple warning to stay quiet for a bit. With a single brutal punch, the first guard is down. Funaki stands over the unconscious man, his mission clear. He finds Shizuru, reminding her that Yamori owes him one. He lifts her from the table, ready to make their escape. They hurry down the opulent hallway before anyone returns. He explains their escape route through the courtyard gate, but their escape is cut short by a sudden fiery impact. He stumbles forward, the force of the blow sending them both down. They collapse to the ground in a heap. The rescue mission failed, and Hashimoto appears, gloating over his perfect shot. Hashimoto wonders why his hitman has returned so quickly. He mocks Funaki for daring to show his face again. Funaki struggles to his feet, trying to protect Shizuru. The villain erupts in laughter, seeing this as a party of fools. He relishes the thought of punishing them all, but Funaki isn't here to play. The hitman's aura flares as he issues a direct challenge. But outside the mansion, another guest has just arrived. The guards at the gate call out to the shadowy figure. It's Yamori, and his rage is practically radiating off him. A guard foolishly tries to stop him with a hand on his shoulder. Yamori's fist connects with a sickening crunch, sending the first guard flying back through the gate. The others can only stare, realizing they've made a terrible mistake. They charge forward anyway, a wave of suits and sunglasses. But Yamori moves like a whirlwind of red energy, leaving a trail of broken bodies in his wake. His eyes burn with a simple, chilling promise of what's to come. Meanwhile, inside, Funaki is taking a serious beating. He's surrounded by Hashimoto's men. Realizing he's outnumbered, he collapses, regretting ever getting involved in this mess. Hashimoto taunts him with a chilling threat against his family, and relishes the thought with a truly unhinged laugh. The words hit Funaki harder than any physical blow, but the villain's monologue is cut short by a sudden noise. A new figure emerges from the smoke-filled doorway. Yamori announces that he's the one sending people to hell today. Funaki looks up, commenting on his rather dramatic timing. Yamori tosses him a healing talisman, a familiar green glow. The hitman knows exactly what to do with it. Enraged, Hashimoto orders his men to open fire. A hail of bullets erupts from every direction, but Yamori moves in a blur, his cloud shadow step making him untouchable. He closes the distance in an instant, taking out the first gunman. Hashimoto can only stare, unable to comprehend his speed. Yamori weaves through the gunfire, a phantom of vengeance. The villain realizes this fight is already lost. He makes a break for it, screaming for his men to find safety. Convinced this kid is from some top-tier martial family, he reaches a secure door, desperately trying to get inside. But his escape is thwarted by a forgotten password. He screams in pure, unadulterated rage. But Yamori is already there, blocking his only exit. The villain tries to reason with him, reminding him of his powerful connections. He finally screams the name of the man who hired him, Lord Ima. But Yamori has never heard the name before, and he promises to make sure Hashimoto suffers for his ignorance. The villain spills everything, explaining the connection to the Amatani family. The name Amatani triggers a memory, and the pieces of the puzzle start to connect. Hashimoto desperately tries to bargain for his life. Realizing this, Ama must be a cultivator as well. Hashimoto desperately offers his services, promising to be a valuable asset. But Yamori only repeats his words with cold contempt. The villain thinks he's getting through, his confidence returning. But our boy's answer comes in the form of a brutal punch. He drives his fist into the man's face with incredible force, sending the villain flying into a nearby pool of water. His fall reveals other captives chained in the darkness. Yamori's eyes burn, his rage reaching a new peak. He looks down at the scene of depravity before him. He decides to let Hashimoto's victims determine his fate. With a swift motion, he uses a blade to shatter the chains binding the captives. He tosses the blade onto the floor before them and tells them their tormentor is now theirs to judge. Hashimoto panics, offering money and power for his life. But one of his victims picks up the blade, her mind made up. Her eyes burn with vengeance, promising him a trip to hell. With justice served, Yamori tends to Shizuru's injuries. Funaki tells him to leave as the police are on their way, but Yamori promises to return after ensuring Shizuru is safe. Funaki asks what he plans to do with this new information. Yamori's plan is simple: learn everything about the Aima family, and then utterly destroy them. Back at his apartment, he tries to find a moment of peace, but he knows Ama is still out there, a threat that must be eliminated. His companion senses a sudden disturbance at the door. Yamori wonders who could possibly be visiting at this hour. He opens the door to find a man in a suit waiting for him. The man announces he has a delivery from President Shuga. He's told to get ready to depart, leaving him completely confused. He calls Shizuru, questioning the sudden invitation and the suit. She explains it's for a formal party hosted by the Hoshikawas. He's surprised to be invited to such a high-profile event. She explains it's a chance to market his pills, and that his ex-fiancée will be there. The news about his former fiancée catches him completely off guard. A memory he'd rather have left buried in the past. Amatani Yuki, the daughter of the family who disowned him. The party is already in full swing, a sea of influential faces. Shizuru points out the giants of Nemi City's business world. Yamori takes it all in, realizing everyone wants a piece of the Hoshikawa family. Shizuru reminds him of the immense power these families wield, explaining that even a distant connection is a huge advantage, and tonight, the Amatani heiress herself will be here. Just then, the grand doors swing open, drawing everyone's attention. The head of the Hoshikawa family has arrived, with Amatani Yuki by her side, but Yamori feels a familiar energy radiating from her. He realizes this is the supposed fiancé of his former self. Amatani Yuki, heiress of her family, and Hoshikawa Nana, head of hers. He wonders if this world has its own form of cultivation after all, and her aura is so strong she isn't even trying to hide it. He decides she's his best lead for information on the Ama family. Shizuru approaches with Yamori, offering a warm greeting. The group exchanges pleasantries, asking about her mother's recovery. Shizuru confirms that her mother is slowly getting better. She presents a gift, the new and improved beauty-preserving pills. Hoshikawa Nana's eyes light up, recognizing the rumored product. The other guests are stunned, knowing the pills are priceless and unreleased. Even Amatani Yuki looks on, her interest clearly piqued. Nana examines the pill, marveling at its incredible quality. She wonders who could have crafted such a perfect elixir. Shizuru introduces Yaemori as the business partner who refined the pill. The name sends a shockwave of recognition through the two women. Hoshikawa Nana remembers him as a child, stunned by his incredible skill. She declares that the Yaemori family had no idea what they were throwing away. But Amatani Yuki dismisses his talent, claiming noble families only value cultivation. She scoffs that if craftsmanship mattered, he'd already be an elder in her house. Yaemori realizes these families have their own crude cultivation methods. Nana agrees his talent means little to them, but asks who taught him. She assumes his master must be an extraordinary person. The word master seems to strike a nerve with Yaemori. Amatani Yuki turns away, her disdain clear. Yaemori claims he's self-taught, a simple hobby right before their conversation is cut short. A new guest arrives, wishing Nana a happy birthday. The man in white strolls into the party, drawing everyone's attention. The crowd whispers his name, Ama Joe, heir to the Ama family. Nana greets him warmly, confirming his identity. And just like that, Yaemori's target has walked right up to him. Ama Joe jokes about his close relationship with both families. His gaze then falls on the unfamiliar woman in their group. Nana proudly introduces Shizuru, daughter of the Shuga family. Ama Joe acknowledges Shizuru, his eyes sizing her up. He introduces himself with a practiced smile, offering his hand. But his handshake is a power play, a crushing grip meant to intimidate. He then turns to Yaemori, feigning ignorance as he asks for his name. Yaemori sees right through the act, deciding to play along for now. He introduces himself, but this is more than a simple greeting. He channels a sliver of his own power into their handshake, a subtle probe to test his opponent's spiritual defenses. But the results are shocking. There's no spiritual energy at all. Ama Joe stumbles back, clutching his arm as if he's been attacked. Ama Joe regains his composure with a practiced smile. He quickly changes the subject, turning his attention to Yuki. But Yaemori's mind is racing, trying to understand what just happened. He can't sense any power from Ama, questioning if he's just a normal human. Ama, meanwhile, notes that Yaemori showed no killing intent at all. With the tense introductions over, the party moves on to dinner. The guests enjoy the lavish meal, completely unaware of the silent conflict. An announcer invites everyone to the main hall for the dance party. The floor fills with couples, a sea of elegant gowns and sharp suits. But Yaemori stands alone, realizing he's been deceived this whole time. He questions the purpose of Ama's deception. Shizuru watches him from across the room, a thoughtful look on her face. A hopeful suitor approaches her, asking for the honor of a dance, but she politely turns him down without a second thought. His friend scolds him for his audacity, reminding him of her family's power. It seems she's rejected every man who's approached her tonight. But his friend suddenly cuts him off, pointing to something unbelievable. The man can only stare, his jaw practically on the floor. Even the other guests turn their heads, their curiosity piqued. Because a voice has just called out Yaemori's name. A gloved hand extends an elegant invitation. It's Shizuru, asking Yaemori for the honor of a dance. The rejected suitors can only stare, their minds completely blown. But elsewhere, Ama Joe is making his exit. His men bow as he prepares to leave the party. He walks toward a waiting limousine, his business here apparently done, but not before leaving a final, chilling order for his men. An order they are quick to acknowledge. With that, the Ama heir's car speeds off into the night, leaving the other guests to wonder what just happened. His men discuss the strange fate of Ama's personal guards. They're replaced often, with the previous ones simply disappearing. Inside the limo, Ama Joe's pleasant facade has vanished. He punishes his subordinate for the earlier handshake with Shizuru. The man can only stammer out a terrified apology, but Ama Joe's true power begins to crackle to life. He explains that he only spared the man for his potential usefulness, but if he can't even handle this simple task, then he shouldn't expect to meet a peaceful end. And with that, the true Ama Joe steps out of the car. His men bow as he steps out of the car. He orders two of them to follow him to the hall, but the remaining guards notice something strange. Inside the car, the real Ama Joe is bound and gagged. His eyes burn with a mix of terror and humiliation. Back at the party, the music plays on, oblivious to the deception. The imposter makes his excuses to Yuki, claiming he has to leave. She can only watch, confused by his sudden departure. And just like that, the man in white is gone. Meanwhile, the crowd is buzzing about Shizuru and her mysterious dance partner. Shizuru is completely swept up in the moment. Yaemori, on the other hand, seems a little out of his element, but his body moves with the music, a forgotten memory, and together, they glide across the floor in perfect harmony. She compliments him, surprised by his hidden talent. He can only offer a nervous smile in return. He remembers her earlier advice to just blend in. Luckily, this body's old lessons and his cultivation saved him. Nana asks Yuki if she's surprised, but the heiress is unimpressed. But Nana teases her, noting she couldn't take her eyes off him. The man in white compliments Yaemori's surprising talent on the floor. Nana questions if he really doesn't know him, but the man plays dumb. She finds it odd that the Aima family couldn't dig up his background. The imposter gives a veiled warning not to cause trouble in her territory, but Nana is focused on Yaemori's potential, vowing to help him. Our boy, meanwhile, enjoys a quiet drink, unaware of the new plots. Nana decides that someone like him can't be ignored any longer. The imposter fumes, thinking he'd have silenced her if not for Yuki. His hateful gaze then turns to Yaemori himself, and across the room, the guests are starting to put a name to the face. The whispers finally connect the dots. He's Amatani Yuki's ex-fiancé. The guests mock his fall from grace, assuming he's desperate. They're convinced he's just trying to claw his way back into high society, but their gossip is cut short by a sudden movement. Amatani Yuki announces she's tired and ready to leave the party. Nana can only watch her go with a knowing smile. Yaemori, meanwhile, is completely oblivious to the unfolding drama, until Yuki turns and confronts him directly, telling him to drop his ambitions. She warns him not to use her to regain his family's status. Our boy can only wonder what on earth she's talking about. She scoffs that his pill-making is just a way to make a living, not true power. Yaemori just takes a calm sip of his drink, completely unbothered. She assumes he's accepted his place as a simple craftsman, but he turns the tables asking who she thinks he's talking about. The heiress can only look on, completely confused by his words. He explains that the spiritual energy she's flaunting is actually leaking out. Her aura flares in shock and rage as she demands to know how he knew. He continues, explaining that her reckless methods are destroying her body from the inside. The two of them stand apart from the rest of the party guests, and with a confident smirk, he offers to fix her little problem for her. Yuki scoffs, finding his claim completely absurd. But Yaemori calmly replies that it's her life on the line, not his. He gives her a chilling warning that her time is running out. He then proposes a trade, a simple favor for her life. He needs her to deliver something directly to Aima Jo. As they stand in the grand hall, a pair of hateful eyes watches them. The imposter can only seethe, his plan suddenly complicated. Later, as the party winds down, the guests spill out into the courtyard. Yaemori makes his own exit, accompanied by the woman from earlier, but a voice calls out, stopping the two of them in their tracks. It's Hoshikawa Nana, who wants to ask a few questions about his pill. She walks with him and Masami through the estate's gardens. Nana cuts to the chase, guessing his talent is her real interest. But Yaemori reminds her he's no longer part of any noble family. She notes his stubbornness reminds her of Amatani Yuki. Nana explains that after her parents' death, Yuki was put on a tight leash by her uncle. She was granted the right to become a cultivator, but can't escape her family's control. Masami is stunned, asking what it means to surpass human limits. Yaemori knows the answer, reaching the third stage of cultivation, a dangerous path that forces her to trade her own lifespan for power. Yaemori asks why she's telling him all of this. Nana explains that, like Shizuru's mother, Yuki's condition has no cure, but she's still desperate to find a way to save her. She admits her own skills are lacking, but his talent surpasses any alchemist she's ever known. Masami is stunned that she'd trust him over modern medicine. But Nana reminds her that he can also craft powerful talismans. The pieces start to click for Masami, connecting him to the legendary cultivator. Yaemori, meanwhile, knows this world's methods are laughably primitive. Nana then pivots back to business, offering a partnership on behalf of her family, promising that with their network his profits will skyrocket. She begs him to one day use his skills to save Yuki, explaining that the broken engagement left the girl devastated. Yaemori listens, the weight of her words sinking in, but their serious conversation is suddenly interrupted. The Aima imposter approaches, saying he's about to leave. He notes her company, feigning polite interest in the group. He then turns to Yaemori with a practiced smile, offering a handshake and a hope for their next meeting. Yaemori accepts, his own smile hiding a deeper meaning. And once again, their handshake is a silent battle of wills. Yaemori's eyes narrow, sensing something is off. The imposter, meanwhile, can feel the spiritual energy radiating from Nana. With the party over, he makes his way to a waiting limousine. But a subordinate stops him with a gift from Amatani Yuki, The imposter seems surprised by the unexpected present. Inside, he finds a simple origami butterfly, wondering at its meaning. He quickly hands it off, ordering his man not to open it. He blames his incompetent underlings for forcing his hand. His ring begins to glow as he plots his next move against his new targets. And with a sinister grin, he promises to show them his true power. He vows to turn Yuki into a weapon against them both. His subordinate nervously holds the box from the Amatani heiress. Inside, the paper butterfly glows with a strange, ethereal light. Elsewhere, high above the city streets, Yamori reflects on the evening's complicated events. He holds a glowing butterfly of his own, a message for his new rival, and reminds Ama that their next meeting will be very, very soon.